But that being said, what do the power ratings look like here for this new edition of the Any Given Saturday Top 25, where anything can happen on any given Saturday? Well, before I jump into this top 25, let me just go ahead and jump in with this anecdotal, this disclaimer. This is not how I would go about ranking these teams if I were somebody that was on the college football playoff board, not a part of that committee. If I was part of this committee, what the rankings are about to see is not how I would go about ranking these teams, not by any stretch of the imagination. Simply, what these power ratings represent is how would I go about moving forward and who would be favored over whom on a neutral side field? That's what these ratings ask. And that is what these ratings answer here tonight. So we're at the end of the regular season, essentially. Let's go ahead and dive right into it like Trey's songs. And we got some notable movement as we start from the very bottom. Actually, quite a bit of muscle movement at the bottom, to be honest with you. We're going to start from 21 to 25. Starting at number 21 through 25. Listen, multiple teams here of note. How about Utah? Utah is still hanging on for dear life, and it seems like Utah is one of those teams that is simply a team that ran out of gas here in the final portions of this season, right? We've seen Utah, come out, try their very best to go ahead and compete, but it simply isn't enough. The loss of Cam Rising, a team can only stomach that for so long, and then eventually there's going to be a breaking point. Now, give Utah credit, they still found a way to win the game, but they were hosting a Colorado team, and Colorado was on a horrendous losing streak to end the season as well. Colorado, they end their year on a 6-game losing streak. So that was the type of team that Utah was going up against. Kind of perceived as that get-right team, even though Coach Prime's teams, even though he doesn't have his guys yet in the trenches, this is a team that's still going to fight, even without Shadir Sanders as well, mind you. So, rough one for Utah. They were in a dogfight for sure. The rumble in the Rockies was fun to watch. Utah pulls it out, but Utah not very convincing as we get through the end of this regular season. I still have them ranked in the top 25 in my power rankings. They're here at number 25 for a reason. However, that being said, would I rank them in the college football playoff top 25? Absolutely not. Another team that went out and won pretty ugly, to be honest with you. How about the Iowa Hawkeyes? Iowa able to secure a 10-win season. The Iowa Hawkeyes went out. They got it done against Nebraska, but they moved down 6 spots. So what's going on here, right? They covered. Well, Iowa expected them to win a little bit more convincingly against Nebraska, right? Nebraska was fighting for bowl eligibility. And if you're a team that could be on that tier below of that, what you would call it, the contention of the college football playoff, the model expected Iowa to win a little bit more convincingly than what it actually did. And unfortunately, we certainly did not get that. Iowa needed a last-second field goal in order to win, and that's after their quarterback threw an interception as well. Just an ugly game. Watching Iowa football is certainly an experience. Iowa, they're in the Big Ten Championship. They're going to be taking on Michigan. We'll preview that game later this week, but let me just say this. Iowa does not have a great shot against Michigan. It seems like that's the consensus in the college football community. Iowa going to have to pull off a miracle, especially from their offense, if they're going to come out and win that game in Indianapolis. But speaking of Iowa teams, we do have a new Iowa team jumping in the top 20. Excuse me, I just burped. That's sexy. Jumping into the top 25. How about Iowa State, the Hawkeyes, in a little bit of a snowstorm kind of classic? They were on the road. They were taking on Kansas State, and they found a way to get it done. Was it fun to watch? Iowa State ended up winning 42-35. Yes, that is what the score actually was. Iowa State, a team that's only going to finish at 7-5, but this Iowa team, man, is feeling good going into the last half of the season. This is a team that is going to win 5 of their last 7 games. So, I mean, it was a little bit of a rocky start. They did lose to Iowa. We talked about them earlier, but if these teams were to go up against each other yet again, I would certainly believe Iowa State would be favored if the game were to take place on a neutral side field. They're a lot better today than the team that we saw play against Ohio, where they only managed to smother up 7 points total. Iowa State, man, a team that is surging at the right time in the second half of the season. Right now, CBS Sports has them going to the Armed Forces Bowl, and if they end up taking on the Raging Cajuns, which is what CBS Sports does have, I think Iowa State would be a favorite in that game, and I think that they could win that game down in Fort Worth, Texas as well. Iowa State really building some momentum here in this last half of the season. And because they do have that bowl game, they're able to go out and build some momentum moving forward, get some extra reps for the guys that are going to be on your roster in 2024 and beyond. Watch out for Iowa State in 2024 for sure. Now, we'll go ahead and jump into that top 20 and what we have going on for sure. Couple of teams that I don't know why Siri just went off there, but that's absolutely crazy. So got a couple of new teams that are in the top 20 that were not ranked last week. Kansas being one of those teams. Kansas, we now have them ranked in the top 20. You want to talk about a resilient team. Kansas is one of those resilient teams. Again, dealing with some health issues at key positions, but they just find a way to continue to be competitive, and Kansas is a perfect microcosm of that. They finished their regular season strong as well. They end up being a team that went on the road to take on Cincinnati. The Bearcats were having their senior night, and Jason Bean, such a dangerous athlete. He's going to be so fun to watch in the bowl season as well. Not only is this a kid that was pretty efficient as a passer in this particular game, 13 for 17, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had a pair of long runs as well. He only carried the ball 4 times, and he ended up with 90 yards and a couple of touchdowns there too. Jason Bean is just a fun player to watch and really took the air out of Nippert Stadium, to be honest with you, on a senior night, which is absolutely crazy. The more that you think about it, Cincinnati has one of the underrated home field advantages in college football. So to go in there and win convincingly, even though that Cincinnati team is down, that's really impressive. So we have Kansas in the top 20 moving forward. They are not going to the Big 12 championship. They got a few too many losses, but right now they're projected to go to the Guaranteed Rate Bowl to take on Rutgers, which could be an interesting matchup in the early portions of the bowl season. Now, speaking of teams that also haven't been ranked, I want to harp in on SMU. Listen, there's a lot of talk about who should get that New Year's Six bid from the group of 5. A lot of people are saying or it's College Football Playoff Committee, and I'm assuming these rankings are going to come out later tonight. They're going to say Tulane is the best group of 5 team in college football, but honestly, I disagree with that assessment. I think there's another group of 5 team that's going to give Tulane a heck of a ride. SMU, we have them ranked number 19. This is their second appearance in the Evan Getting Saturday poll this year. The only group of 5 team that we do have in our power ratings. I just think this SMU team, this is a team that's ready to go. They are going to be competitive day one in the ACC if they're able to keep this team together over the offseason. That's always a difficult thing to do in terms of, the modern era of the transfer portal and all of these other things happening in college football right now. But SMU was rolling. SMU could have easily cruised through this game. This could have been a letdown moment, as we saw Tulane beat UTSA. So we were wrong about our American Conference Championship pick. So SMU knew who they were going to go up against. This could have been a letdown spot, as Navy desperately needed this game to be bowl eligible. However, didn't let that happen. SMU wins convincingly, 59-14. Preston Stone was elite in this game. And I think SMU might have what it takes to pull the upset on Tulane and really create some chaos in that that group of 5 race for a New Year's 6 spot, I really do think this is the best group of 5 team in America. I'll dive into that American Conference preview potentially later on this week, one way or the other. But this is what 16 through 20 is looking like. Got Texas A&M at 16, Washington at 17, and Clemson at number 18 in the country. Now, we'll keep it moving as we now go into the top 15. This is what top 15 is looking like. Couple of muscle movements here. We saw Iowa State move into the top 25. Kansas State falling back to earth a little bit. And it seems like Kansas State, the model was really high compared to what the rest of the country had Kansas State. I really want to refrain from doing any manual corrections because it will eventually play itself out. We're starting to see that here. Kansas State is going to fall 6 spots after their home loss to Iowa State the end of season. Who knows what's going to happen to his Kansas State team in the bowl game. Will Howard did announce that he is going to enter the transfer portal as a grad transfer. So Avery Johnson's season is now here for the Kansas State Wildcats. Really intrigued to see what that ends up looking like. But tough loss for Kansas State, so we moved them down 6 spots. And then Alabama. Alabama was a significant move down as well. We moved them down 5 spots from number 7 to number 12. And listen, rivalry games can be really wonky. They really could. It provides some serious chaos. You never know what can happen on any given Saturday, especially when a rivalry is involved. However, let's just call a bean a bean. Alabama should have lost that game against Auburn, and Auburn got blown out last week against New Mexico State. I don't care if it's a rivalry game or not. That's not acceptable. The only reason Alabama won this game was they're somehow able to convert a 4th and 31 to get the game-winning touchdown. Alabama is very fortunate that they won that game. They should be counting their lucky stars. Now they got to go play Georgia in the SEC championship in what could potentially be seen as a potential play-in, depending on what happens around the country. Speaking of the SEC, we'll jump into the top 10. Got some current and future SEC members in here. LSU at number 9, Georgia at number 7 in the country. They actually had an interesting fight against Georgia Tech. Now about Texas. Texas, we'll talk about them in a little bit. We'll put them to the side for now. But man, is Texas possibly peaking at the right time, given what they did against Texas Tech? Oh my word. Again, we'll jump into that later, but we were impressed by Texas, so we moved them up 5 spots. They're now up at number 6 in the entire country. A true contender for the college football playoff. Don't need a little bit of help, but Texas wins. If they just get just a tad bit of help, just a little bit of help, they're going to be in and competing for a national championship. And Texas is a team that could do some legitimate damage as well. And then finally, the top 5. Top 5, number 1 is the same. I still have Oregon as the number 1 team in all of college football. If Oregon is able to win against Washington, I would have Oregon as my favorite to win a national championship. I'm going to stand by that because, hey, they may not have the best resume, but if you look at the eye test, I think it's almost undisputable that Oregon is the best team in the country right now, given how they played. They've been consistent over the course of the entire season with a couple of hiccups along the way. And in a year in which no team has really distinguished themselves for that national championship hunt, I think this is the type of year where Oregon can indeed win it all. Other thing that I do want to address real quick, yes, Ohio State and Michigan did just play. We saw a version of the game vote, a game in which Michigan did win close on a neutral site, and you take turnovers out of the picture, and trust me, turnovers played a big role in the game. I still think Ohio State would be favored, but a great win by Michigan, not a knock by them. The Wolverines, unlike Ohio State, they completely control their own destiny. They just got to beat Iowa, and they're going to be in. Ohio State, however, going to need a lot of help. And even if everything breaks Ohio State's way, I'm not even sure that guarantees Ohio State getting into the playoff. But you never know what could happen, like we said before, any given Saturday. So that's my top 25 that we have right now. We still have some bowl games. We still have conference championships. Still quite a few things can change. Let me know what you think down in the comments section, what you think about any given Saturday top 25. Do you agree with my assessment or am I blowing some smoke? Let me know in that comment section. I always love chatting with you, the listener.